where imagine this person you thought you were, this great man, this good man, this smart, sharp guy who can navigate the world and has been like a traveler and just like kicking ass throughout your 20s, and then suddenly you get humiliated and betrayed, and you realize you're not as great as you thought you were. It was a massive hit to my ego, massive, to the point that I, as we know in spiritual traditions, shedding the ego, so to speak, is the way,
death of the ego,
is the way to enlightenment. It's the path to enlightenment. And I think in the Christian or Catholic tradition, these moments where you have take such a huge ego hit that you fall apart mentally, this is known as the dark night of the soul.
Wow.
And I went through my dark night of the soul, and it was not a night. It was many months. Many nights. And it took a lot of recontextualizing to decide that, one, I didn't want to lose my happy place, which was Sopot. I had to take it back.
The glorious Sopot.
I had to take it back. And two, I wanted to go there with a little bit of familiarity, which was my bro. And, me and Sammy have always been close, and we both played music. So we thought, let's have our little adventure. So by the end of those 9 months that we spent, we had become experienced musicians. Sammy had become a confident singer. He went off to Warsaw, went on The Voice of Poland, and became quite a popular singer here to this day.
Semi-finals,
yeah. I decided that in that year, this dark night had just kept getting darker and darker, but also I was emerging with like an identity, kind of a paradigm for the awakening I was going through. And I recognized that I'm so full of residual sense of self that doesn't exist anymore. That was destroyed. This idea of a Munir who's, strong and an ego, and he's cool, and he's, whatever, dominant. He was dead. He was just dead, and I was still clinging to him. And looking back at him and clinging to him was just hurting me more because it wasn't me. So I decided that I had to actively start from scratch. And I tried in the most literal way possible. I stripped my entire life of almost all pleasantries, pleasant things.
Desires.
I went full monk.
You went full Ramadan, huh?
Full-time Ramadan. I moved to Lebanon. So ancestrally, I'm from Lebanon. I had not lived there or really been there since we were kids. And I always had an estranged relationship with my dad because my parents divorced early on. I wanted to know his story, and I wanted to understand if he went through what I'm going through now. So when I went to Lebanon, it was in a state of being totally on a vegan diet. I was exclusively taking cold showers. I was 100% celibate, completely, no alcohol, no smoking, absolutely nothing. And also...
And how long did you do that?
That was a little over a year.
Whoa, you're a gladiator, man.
and it was incredible,
Wow, I began massive respect.
So
you have to tell us, how did you manage, man?
As you were going through now, you're fasting, right?
Yeah, but this is
But once you...
It's like Disneyland of what you did.
Once you kick it off, though, it becomes very easy because nothing feels better than that lightness you get from a reset or just feeling what felt like purity at the time, right? Anyway, in Lebanon, I bonded with my dad to a degree that I look back on it as the greatest decision I've made in my entire life, to go back and get to know him. Because not only do we have a relationship now, but we have a, if in part of the hero's journey, this mythology arc, you're supposed to reconcile with the dad or kind of just know his place in your life and reform it. That's exactly what happened. And to this day, my dad and I are just like friends. And he takes me seriously. I think he looks to me as his confidant. More importantly, he feels that I understand him. And I do. I saw his side of things. So after that monk year, and mind you, that monk year was almost like I don't want to call it a disorder, but it was very self-flagellating. It was very much, I should deprive myself because I spent all these years partying and, enjoying my life, and look, it led me to that disaster. That was my comeuppance. I had it coming. I had this cancer situation coming. So when I deprived myself of all those things, it was almost my way of prostrating myself to the universe, saying, do what you want with me. I'm not going to hurt a single thing. I'm not going to hurt myself. I'm starting from scratch and I'm leaving it to you. And it was in those moments of silence in our little mountain home in Lebanon, alone for weeks on end, in deep silence, that I started to hear the compass again.
Wow.
And I think that's why a lot of people lose track of the compass that we talked about earlier, the one that sets you on your heart path, which I believe is the closest you can get to whatever idea of God you have. You know, if God has a plan for you, it is in listening to your heart, quite literally, that the urges of that compass. I got back in touch with it in such a strong way that I really stopped doubting any step of my life. It just went to, I just started to have a series of events that led me to my current, work, and then the amazing situation I have and the amazing business partner that I have. And I'm a lucky person, and almost all of that happened in passivity, not in an active effort. I simply said, if the compass is pointing that way, we say yes, and we let it happen. Now, that's passivity again. It leads you only so far before you realize that being passive, which by definition is letting things come to you, you also kind of compromise your boundaries, right?
Absolutely.
That was the motif of the last few years. It was reconciling all of that, consolidating all that I had learned, and trying to balance this sense of letting things happen to you with when I'm supposed to actively interfere and put up a boundary. And I think that, the series of ups and downs and the peaks and valleys and the experiences that I had have taught me now when I'm supposed to activate the boundaries. Because when you first get boundaries, it's like a kid with a new toy. It feels powerful. You're like Frodo with the ring. Yeah. You're like, wow, I'm losing my shyness. I'm no longer timid to tell people, nope, sorry, you're crossing my line. And when that happens, it's like a power trip. And you also don't know. You start to doubt everything. It's like, wait a minute, am I supposed to let that person say that to me? Is it nice to let them, or is it, mean to let them get away with that? It's hard. Boundaries are something you need to calibrate over time. But I think I'm at a point now where I can balance connection with boundaries, because I've made my, boundary setting a habit. It's almost built into my personality now. So when I meet somebody, I don't feel this need to put on a smile so that if I'm not enjoying the conversation, I can't hide it. I'm almost too authentic with this. I can't just be like, my face hurt. My face starts to hurt. So I don't want my face to hurt. I don't want it to hurt. That's my boundary. I'm just going to let it do what it has to do, right? And so that's the end game with boundaries. You make them a habit so that they don't take energy from you anymore. Because when something is a habit, you have energy, you optimally made that energy efficient. Habits are things that you do without expelling energy anymore, because they're just like processes. You push the button, speed dial, whatever. When you make boundaries a habit, you become a much more mentally healthy person, because now your mind is your monastery. Your mind is fortified. It's like a border for a country. There's a border patrol. You choose who comes in and out. You always act with diplomacy first. But if somebody storms the border, what do? You reluctantly have to shoot them or push them away or whatever.
I see. So would you say that boundaries is the key to happiness?
I believe it's the foundation of a journey toward happiness. Yeah. I think that until you feel that you have fortified your mind from outside influence, you are always going to be working in a system with a leak in it. So to make your mind as much of a closed system as possible, in the sense that you are the border patrol and the defense and the constitution writer and you're the founding fathers and you're the military of everything of your mind. Yeah, I would say that I had not been able to get to a point of true contentedness in the moment until I recognized that I need to respect my limits. My limits are different than other people. Some people are extremely good at just dealing with hardships and stresses and whatever. I'm relatively good at those, but for the most part, I'm incredibly sensitive. So I need to I need to put these boundaries up, or I'm going to be drained to the bone and end up in a mental health crisis again, you know?
So would you say that, are you happy right now? Where are you at in your life?
Sure. Absolutely.
How do you define happiness for you? What's happiness?
Well, I used to have a bunch of definitions, but my brother and dear friend and business partner, Mo Gaudat, who you may have heard.
Shout out to Mo.
Yeah, I think that Mo, in all his brilliance, did the world a big favor by making happiness into an equation. And he says that happiness is equal to reality minus expectations.
Reality mind. Okay.
Yeah, so if reality is meeting your expectations, you're happy.
Yeah.
If you subtract expectations from reality and your expectations are higher than reality, then you're in a negative, right? So essentially, if life is meeting your expectations, you're happy. And I would say I'm having moments right now, because I'm going through a lot of transition, where it's not quite meeting my expectations yet. I want to get a new home. I want to, right? I want to grow up in a lot of ways that are difficult logistically. So I have days when I lose a little hope, whatever. But on the whole, I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. And I think that, I think I carry a fundamental happiness that is only some days tainted by a little bit of unhappiness, very acutely. Yeah.
Thank you for being here today. I'm honored. We had an incredible conversation, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have you next week again. You will be a regular guest, that's for sure. So any parting words you want to say, or where can people find you, or we work?
First of all, thank you, man. I have a lot of respect that you do things. You do.
We keep going. What's that you call the soldier? You're a soldier for keeping.
You're a soldier.
I love that.
So you did this, and I'm honored you chose me to come on. And parting words. If you can't hear the compass, find, you need to change something. So put yourself in silence. Take some time for yourself. Get back in touch with that voice, because if you're not hearing that voice, you're hearing other people's voices. And those people don't necessarily have your best interest in mind. They have their best interest in mind. So you got to get back to a place where you're living as the guide and the driver.